Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Schott joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And we're still tracking some beautiful weather to carry over the next couple of days. Something to highlight for tonight. You may have heard of already the full moon. In fact, to be exact, the full strawberry moon tonight. That's the name given to the full moon through the month of June. Now, preview of what we're going to be talking about primarily with our full strawberry moon is the fact that it is not pink. And I cannot count how many times I have seen pictures of the full strawberry moon as pink on social media. It's not pink, folks. It's not going to be pink. I think most of us already knew that, but yes, not pink. Now, we'll get into why, you may see the red orange tint to that moon initially. We'll get into, we still could see it looking a shade that we're, the shade that's not white. Not to say it's going to be pink, but we'll get into why you could see initially as the moon rises, you can notice a more orange red tint. So we'll get into that. Yes, it can be a bit special in that regard, but it's not going to be pink above our heads as we go through the night. So warm temperatures will be returning. So we're also going to be tracking some warmer weather the next couple of days with this beautiful stretch that will carry over into Thursday. And now from there, we will be tracking some rain in the future. So while it is dry here near term, we're also going to be breaking down on when to watch for some rain. So without further ado, let's jump into things, shall we? Our temperatures today, 70s, a little bit cooler with respect to yesterday. The big drop that we really noticed, not so much of the temperatures though, but those dew points, back to some smiling faces there on that comfort index, ending that more muggy stretch that we came off of. It's certainly nice to see that drop in humidity. The good news is this isn't a one-day ordeal, so we'll notice some more pleasant feeling humidity levels again Wednesday. Now, I may notice a touch of that humidity Thursday, but I would say it's still more tolerable, I think is a good way to put it. Now, by Friday, especially by Friday afternoon and evening, is when it starts to turn muggy on us again, and that will just carry over through the weekend. And I think a lot of next week is just going to end up muggy as well. So we'll take the break in humidity while we can get it. I think we'll get into a pretty muggy stretch of weather by the end of the work week that will carry over into a good portion of next week. So just a word of caution. I think next week overall could be pretty muggy. So take advantage of this low humidity while it is in place here through the middle of the week before we see those dew points pick back up further into the 60s going through the weekend. Live radar, it's quiet. Now, we did track some stray showers developing primarily for areas south of I-70. Maybe some of you tuning in were one of those locations that saw that stray shower. Most of us, though, stayed dry going throughout the day. We had that slight chance to come to fruition, but most of us staying dry. Now, from here, there's no chance at all over the next couple of days. So we are looking completely dry over the next couple of days before rain chances are going to pick back up. And again, the highlight for tonight, as we see our skies clear, winds calm, it's quiet, it's great viewing conditions for the full strawberry moon. Watch for moonrise 8:52, and we'll see it initially here early tonight is probably going to be the best viewing conditions. So once we get past sunset and we start to get past dusk, then we'll see here early on tonight likely the best viewing conditions as that moon is still low on the horizon, and that's where we get that orange red hue at moonrise. So I think that's going to be the best viewing conditions is early tonight, and we'll deal with that full moon giving a moonlit sky tonight. That's for sure. With clear skies, it's going to be a bright night, a moonlit night across the Ohio Valley with the full strawberry moon. Now again, the name comes from just the fact that wild strawberries, are typically ripe and picked around this time of the year. So it comes from Native American tribes in the Northeast, calling it the full strawberry moon because of the wild strawberries that are typically ripe and picked around this time of the year. Not that it's going to be a pink moon. And again, I probably have seen that over 10 times on posts on social media. Maybe you guys have as well, but so many just showing a pink moon for tonight. And what you see in the background in this graphic is what it's going to look like overnight. But again, initially, as it rises and as it sets, if you have to be up very early tomorrow morning, that's when you can see that more orange hue. And the reason why is the same reason why we get those vibrant sunrises and sunsets. It's the same concept. So why do we get, those red orange sunsets? Why is that moon going to appear more orange red? Well, it has to do with where that sun, or in this case, the moon, is on the horizon. So when it's low on the horizon, that the light or this reflected off of the moon's surface has a larger path through Earth's atmosphere by the time it reaches our eyes. When it's more above us, it's a shorter path, right? Well, with that longer path through Earth's atmosphere of that light getting reflected off the moon's surface, and by the time it reaches our eyes, with that longer path, what ends up happening as it travels through a larger, thicker part of the atmosphere, right? A larger part of the atmosphere is that it's starting to scatter out those more blue and violet lights on the visible spectrum. So when we're scattering out more of the blue violet lights, by the time the light actually reaches us, what's left? Well, it's more of the red, orange, and sometimes yellow. So that's our sunrise, sunset colors, right? That more vibrant sunsets. It's the same concept with the moon. The light reflected off the moon's surface, reaching our eyes. By the time that light reaches us, when it's low on the horizon, that light has traveled through a large enough area of the Earth's atmosphere that has scattered out those more blue violets, and we're left with more red orange. So that's why you can notice for the time here early tonight, that moon, while not pink, can have more of an orange red hue to it. So it can be special in that regard. It's rising very low on the horizon. You're going to want to look towards the southeast. That's where to look, low on the horizon. I think it's going to be pretty cool here early tonight to see that moon rise. Again, it's going to be technically right about 8:52, 8:53. Still dealing with a little bit of daylight likely at that time, not quite completely dark, but that's the time to watch for that moon rising about 8:52, 8:53. Again, look towards the southeast. That's where to look, and I think it could be pretty cool to spot here as that moon initially, when it appears, it can look more orange and red, and oftentimes if enough dust in the atmosphere, you get a magnifying effect as well, so it can even appear a little bigger, and a little bit of a magnifying effect as well. So it's something we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on early tonight, and just something to note. And you may want to step outside and get a glimpse of the full strawberry moon here early on tonight. Should be pretty cool. So as we advance further to the night, it is going to be a cool, comfortable night. So the coolest night we've actually had in a week. A lot of the stretch here, we did manage to fall just in the 50s for this morning, but for a lot of the stretch over the past week, we've been 60 plus for a low. So, dropping in the mid 50s, this will be the coolest in a week. So last Tuesday, the last time we saw those lows towards the mid 50s. So it's certainly nice to spot a cool, comfortable night returning across the Ohio Valley before that warmer afternoon when we're back in the 80s and lots of sunshine. Futurecast very quiet. It's working, I promise, just very quiet. We're going to barely see a cloud in sight tomorrow. Of course, no chance for rain then with barely a cloud in sight. Also joining us this evening on YouTube. Today was crazy. Was surprised to see rain. So Austin, one of us that saw that stray shower. So Austin, one of the few that saw that shower develop, mainly to locations south of I-70. But yes, Austin, one of the few that managed to spot that shower. Hope we don't see some for the next couple of days. No, rain chances are now dropping off completely. And again, tomorrow, not only dry, but barely a cloud in sight. A few more clouds in the mix Thursday, staying dry though. Friday's the following rain chance returning. Good evening there, Lola. Storms and rain still in the forecast for the weekend. We're going to dive into that. But spoiler, yes, we will be tracking some rain in the forecast for the weekend. And in fact, while the rain chances, again, are staying low for Thursday, likely not going to happen, we will see a few more clouds mixing in. Temperatures Thursday afternoon likely a bit further into the 80s, so more mid-upper 80s going into Thursday afternoon. So even further in the 80s anticipated for Thursday. Again, likely going to stay dry. Now, by Friday is when the chance will start to pick back up. So no guarantee Friday. I wouldn't say it's likely. The precipitation Friday is likely more hit or miss, but there can certainly be at least a few of us that are picking up a round of rain later into the day on Friday. So precipitation Friday afternoon and evening anticipated to be more scattered, but we'll be watching for some more isolated showers and thunderstorms likely returning later on into the day on Friday. So that would be our following chance that we're going to be watching for some showers and thunderstorms. And while I do anticipate, some of us can still stay dry as we go through Friday, with, again, it is staying more widely scattered or not isolated. By the time we get into the weekend, it's going to be a tougher task, I think, to accomplish. Yes, this can be more scattered in nature, but we're just dealing with so many rounds of rain Saturday to Sunday that at some point during the daytime, Saturday, Sunday, likely going to be seeing rain. And it can even be more numerous showers and thunderstorms at times. Just, I think overall, a wet weekend is ahead. And that potential is there, not just in the afternoon and evening, but that potential is there in the mornings as well. So this is something we have to likely deal with throughout the entirety of the day, Saturday and into Sunday. Now, it's not a steady rain all day long. It's not, but it's just one of those situations this weekend where if you're planning anything outdoors, be prepared for at least a round of rain. I don't think we can avoid that as we go throughout Saturday, Sunday. So not ideal for any outdoor plans. A lot of cloud cover Saturday and Sunday, which hopefully, dealing with a lot of cloud cover, and if hopefully we can see some rain in the morning, that can help keep our severe risk low. So there is that silver lining to that. If it ultimately turns out to be a pretty wet and dreary weekend, at least then we can keep that severe risk low. So hopefully that does come to fruition. It's still a bit early, right? We want to wait until at least Thursday, if not Friday, before we start to dive into the severe risk on Saturday. We'll wait probably till Friday before we start to dive into any potential risk on Sunday, but we're still going to wait, give us another day or two before we start to really dive into specifics on how the impacts we could be dealing with Saturday and Sunday, especially with respect to severe weather. And while, I do think that if we muster enough cloud cover and some rain in the mornings, that can keep severe risk low. And hopefully that is what comes to fruition. The one thing I do think we'll still have to watch for Saturday and Sunday is the potential for localized flooding. So I don't think we can avoid that, unfortunately. We'll have to watch. We'll see some heavy downpours in place Saturday and Sunday. And much like as of recent, if we're getting those heavy downpours occurring frequently, over a short period of time over the same location, then we deal with some flash flooding. And we'll have to watch for that potential for flash flooding. And in general, flooding in general, I think it's a possibility at times through the weekend. So I think that is, as it stands now, I'd say that's more the primary concern in my eyes, but we'll see just how high the severe risk could end up being once we get closer to the weekend. There's still way too much uncertainty to make a call on that right now, but we'll keep a close eye on it. But I do think we'll at least have to watch there for the potential for some flooding as we go through the weekend. Suzanne saying there was an EF2 tornado in Erie County, PA yesterday. Yeah, some tornadoes confirmed just to our east. Thankfully, not for us, though, right? Thankfully, we avoided that severe weather. But yes, there were some for our neighbors into the western part of PA dealing with tornadoes yesterday. So certainly thoughts, prayers with those to our neighbors to our east. But thankfully for us, did not see that severe threat come to fruition. What's the percentage to see a tornado in the month of June? Great question. I do not have a specific percentage to see a tornado, or I would not forecast a specific percentage to see a tornado. Is it possible? Yes. I don't know if I'd put a number or a percentage on it. We could dig up some statistics over past and put it into a percentage that way. That would had to do some research on that to look back on tornado records for us here in the Ohio Valley, translate that to statistics into the specific month of June, average it out over the records of years of data, and eventually could come up with a percentage. I fortunately don't know that off the top of my head, though. Good evening. Enjoying the nice weather, Sarah says. Yeah, it's certainly nice, isn't it? It's great to see. Good evening from New Manchester. Thanks for update. Thank you, Charlene. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. So another question, couple more points to get to here over the next couple of days. Maybe some questions remain. First of all, with the smoke, right? We've been dealing with this a lot here as of recent, and we can see this carry over into tomorrow. Not anticipating it to be real thick in terms of that smoke present in our atmosphere. So likely not quite as thick as even what we dealt with for today. So it should be really minimal in terms of impacts that will deal with the smoke the next couple of days. Again, same story. Could be a bit of a hazy look to the sky and the horizon at times. Thankfully, a lot of this anticipated to remain more elevated in the atmosphere. That just means then the concentration of smoke near the surface looks low. So there can be a reduction just as of recent to air quality again tomorrow, but it's not likely going to be much. So, maybe at times moderate air quality. And that's just the point where, very sensitive people may wish to limit outdoor exertion, but for most of us, likely not going to be affected by the reduction in air quality that we see for tomorrow. Now, another thing to note, now that we're in this dry stretch, the allergen levels are going to pick back up. So, they're turning more moderate Wednesday and likely moderately high Thursday, Friday to Saturday. I do expect once we start to see that rain return Saturday, they can drop through the weekend or throughout the weekend. We could see allergen levels drop. But, if you suffer from seasonal allergies, then just something to note, those allergen levels are ramping up here with this dry stretch. So just, keep that in mind. Make sure to, maybe take some of the allergy medicine before you head out and enjoy the outdoors, as unfortunately those allergen levels are picking up here with this dry stretch going through the middle of the week. Charlene says it's going to be at Sugar Creek, Ohio for a weekend with family. Hopefully not hard rain at Sugar Creek. Unfortunately, it can be hard at times, Charlene, unfortunately. And that's just, dealing with the muggy conditions returning this weekend. It's a situation where you can just feel how much moisture is in the atmosphere, right? You can feel it just with it being muggy. A lot for these thunderstorms to tap into. So, we'll be dealing with likely some heavy downpours at times Saturday and Sunday that is anticipated. Again, that is more the primary concern in my eyes, at least at this point, is that potential for some flooding in spots Saturday, Sunday with those heavy downpours. If we're getting those heavy downpours over the same location, then we're dealing with some flooding concerns. And I think that's ultimately in my eyes, as it stands now, the primary concern. If severe risk looks to increase over the next couple of days leading into the weekend, maybe flipping that story. But I would think that flooding is certainly going to be a concern as we go through the weekend. Not to say, I don't want to say it's widespread, right? I don't foresee it being a widespread major flooding event. I'm just saying that, those localized flooding instances like we've seen as of recent, can very well be in play Saturday and Sunday. And that could ultimately be of higher concern than the severe weather risk. But again, we'll certainly make that final call once we get closer to the weekend. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I want to point out as well, by this weekend, you notice the drop in temperatures. So with the cloud cover and rain, I think there's a good chance that those temps can hold into the 70s Saturday and Sunday, but it is not comfortable 70s. It's not like today. That's muggy. Those are muggy 70s with those dew points climbing back in the 60s. And what's always a good telltale sign, when you look at these overnight lows, so without even us getting into the dew points, getting into that muggy meter, here's a test you can do yourself. When you're looking at the temperature forecast, look at those low temperatures. So anytime you're seeing a stretch there with lows around the mid 60s, here's what's a good bet. It's muggy. Why? Well, oftentimes the limiting point to how much we cool at night is the dew point. It can be the dew point because as temperatures reach the dew point, air becomes saturated. Now, when the air becomes saturated, it's harder and harder for that air to continue to cool. And oftentimes those temperatures just become stable once they reach the dew point. So anytime you're seeing those temperatures, those lows only reaching around the mid 60s, there's a good bet that that's where the dew point is as well. Those mid 60s and up is humid to us. 70 plus for a dew point is just unbearably humid. So that's the range to keep in mind. So you can oftentimes get an idea of just how humid it's going to be purely based off of the low temperature forecast. This rings true, especially for our summer months. It's a good telltale sign, and that's exactly what we're going to see in play here over the next 10 days. So that's why I said earlier, once it turns muggy this weekend, I think a lot of next week can end up pretty muggy as well. And a good evidence there of those overnight lows, which can very well remain around the mid 60s. So we'll be bracing for a pretty muggy stretch of weather, likely once those dew points pick back up this weekend. It can carry over as we go through next week. And Suzanne saying, great, thanks for the reminder for allergies. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm fortunate. I know it's not fun dealing with those seasonal allergies. Just something to note there. Unfortunately, the seasonal allergies can be a bit worse here the next couple of days with more allergen, with a higher allergen level with this dry weather. It's air you could wear. Absolutely. It sure is, Suzanne. It is air you wear. Yes, it's muggy by the weekend. Good evening there, Renee. Thanks for tuning in. Muggy weather with thunderstorms is the risk recipe for a miserable day, Austin says. Unfortunately, yeah, we'll deal with some muggy conditions this weekend. Overall, I think a lot of cloud cover, those showers and thunderstorms just periodically with us, just on and off likely for a lot of that stretch Saturday and Sunday. Not, unfortunately, good conditions for anything outdoors. Good time. Again, great time now to take advantage of the lower humidity, completely dry conditions, sunshine. This is it. If you got some yard work to get done, maybe you want to put some mulch down, catch up on some mowing, weed eating, whatever it may be. This is the time certainly to do it. Maybe get some gardening done. This is it, because again, after this, it's not going to be, washout likely as we look ahead for a good portion of next week. But I still think there's at least a chance for a shower thunderstorm developing in the afternoon hours on Monday, Tuesday. And again, it's more muggy at that point as well, looking ahead going into next week. Nicer to do that stuff with less humidity in place over the next couple of days. It's warm, don't get me wrong. It's, we're climbing in the 80s, even mid-upper 80s by Thursday, but it's not real humid likely until we get closer into the latter part of Friday and the weekend. Then it's going to be rather muggy at that point. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Keep in mind, if you're just joining us, the full strawberry moon is tonight. Full strawberry moon is tonight. Now, if you've seen a lot of the social media posts showing a pink moon, unfortunately got bad news. It's not going to be pink. However, initially as the moon rises here, it'll be about 8:52, 8:53 coming up here shortly. When the moon is low on the horizon early on tonight, you can see that moon have more of an orange-red hue to it. It can look more orange-red initially. As it continues to rise further into the sky, it's just going to end up turning, how we typically see it, white, right? And it's not going to be pink as we go through the night. I've seen it I don't know if you guys have. I've seen it so many times on social media showing a pink moon, just like what we have earlier to the year where the full moon's actually named Pink Moon. It's not going to be pink. It gets its name from wild strawberries that typically ripen and are picked around this time of the year. Comes from Native American tribes in the Northeast calling this moon a full strawberry moon. The June full moon, the full strawberry moon. That's where it gets its name from. Not that it's going to be pink. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Suzanne, I'll see you at 10 on Fox 9. All right, sounds good, Suzanne. I'll see you then as well. You can catch me coming up, like Suzanne mentioned, 10 o'clock on Fox 9 News Night tonight at 11. And as always, for that next edition of Nate at 8 tomorrow evening. And of course, stay tuned throughout the week. Continue to bring you the latest on any impacts we can see for the weekend. We'll start to iron out those finer details here over the next few days once we get closer to the weekend. So certainly urge you to stay tuned for that. We'll have the latest on what to watch for the weekend coming up over the next few days. And we'll have the latest coming up on that next edition of Nate at 8 as well. Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you all on the next edition of Nate at 8.